There it is. We are live and we are officially into week 1 of the 2022 NFL season. We have real life football happening this Thursday. And that means we finally have to set our lineups. I know some of you still have a few drafts here and there, but for the most part, we've got our teams, we've got our stars, and now we got to set our lineups. We're talking quarterbacks, and I'm here with Nick Lepri at Notorious FNTSY. Just beyond excited to be here. I know you are too. What's up, man?
Yeah, you know when Scott Hansen, when football starts and he goes, football? That's exactly how I feel right now. I'm so excited to talk about some football today and some things that are actually going to happen, right? For months we're talking about, oh, it's coming up eventually. We got a couple months to go, and now it's just a few days away, and I'm pumped to talk about football now.
Absolutely. And what's up to everyone in chat? I know this is a new live format and we're still experimenting as we get into week 1 of the NFL season. So let us know what you think about the format here. We're going to be talking tiers, stardom, situm, the pluses and minuses to players. And we're also going to be going into the lower tiers. So if you are in a 2 quarterback or super flex league, we also got you covered there. But we love to hear from you guys. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell too so that you know when these live videos are going out. We're going to be trying to hang out with you guys in the morning, talking position by position as the week goes on. So we'll start quarterbacks, then running backs, wide receivers, and then, of course, tight end. We also got videos for the waiver wire, trades, start sits, everything you need to get ready every single week. We got a lot of great personalities like Nick helping us out. Okay, so quarterback position. Many times, you're only starting one of them. There are some clear, great names this week. I think we got to start with the fact that there is a player who probably got drafted quarterback 3 or 4 in your league. But for me, I think he's the number 1 player. Lamar Jackson's playing the Jets. I think we should just log out, right? 2-minute show. We're done here. Best player on the slate.
Definitely. I have Lamar Jackson as my number 1 quarterback on the week going up against the Jets. This is going to be a very soft matchup. My only worry is that they play so good that they have to bench him because he scored so many fucking points. But at the end of the day, if they score that many points, then guess what's going to happen? He did great in fantasy. So I'm really excited about Lamar this week. And this seems like the point total in this game, I know we're not talking about betting, just makes no sense. I think the Ravens are genuinely going to blow them out.
Yeah, I mean, start there, right? Just the fact that the spread is so high. But honestly, it could be even higher. Maybe the respect to the Jets defense is what's kind of swaying them right now. But definitely game totals and implied totals for each team are going to be things we're going to be taking into huge consideration. So the fact that they are touchdown favorites on the road, albeit in a 45-point total game, is heavily weighing here. Now, we can also look at some other stats. Obviously, it's a new year. We've got different personnel, but in terms of defensive ability and how they've affected fantasy points last year, the Jets were 25th in the NFL in schedule-adjusted fantasy points. That's fantasy points allowed above or below their opponent's season average. So they were giving up way more than average points to the quarterback position last year. We probably see it at league average or worse once again from the Jets, although I do have high hopes for them eventually this year. Lamar Jackson is in my number 1 tier, my S tier, but I also think you can include Josh Allen. This one scares me a little bit more because the Rams defense is so strong, especially if Aaron Donald can, do Aaron Donald things. It can make life really difficult for Allen as a passer, especially if he wants to go deep to Davis or Diggs. But we know that rushing ability is kind of that cop-out, that way that he can help you in a fantasy floor standpoint. And, of course, if he does get a few passing touchdowns, then the ceiling game is absolutely there, the 30-point expectation. What do you think of Allen?
Yeah, I like Allen this week a lot. He's my quarterback number 2 right under Lamar Jackson. And I have these two in their own kind of a tier. Now, I think you can definitely expand tier number 1, make it a little bit bigger. But for me, it's just Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And I really do think this is going to be one of the higher point totals of the week. I expect Josh Allen to really go in there and put in some work. And it's not like Stafford isn't going to push back. It's not like the Rams aren't going to be able to keep up with them. So that's going to result in a higher scoring game and a higher point total for Josh Allen. And I'm very excited to see this game because I want to see how the running backs kind of work in here. What's James Cook and Devin Singletary's usage? But I'm also excited to see, maybe are we going to get that crazy Gabe Davis week again? Probably not. But maybe it could happen. So I like Josh Allen a ton. And like you mentioned, the rushing upside really does bail out Josh Allen a ton because even if the defense has everyone covered deep down the field, he'll just run a train on the defense and it'll be quite easy. So I like Josh Allen.
Yeah, and also I think the slot could be his friend here, with Jalen Ramsey on one side of the field and the entire Rams secondary based around what they do with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I'm really interested to see if they kind of go all out in trying to stop one of Diggs or Davis and let the other kind of beat them. That could be Gabe Davis. I also think it could be whoever gets more snaps in the slot. I think right now that looks like Isaiah McKenzie or over Jamison Crowder, but we will get to the wide receivers. That is my number one tier, just Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Now we go into tier two, the A tier, whatever you want to call it. I think this is where it starts to widen out just a little bit, but I think for me, we got to start with Jalen Hurts playing the Detroit Lions. I know they're everyone's new darling, but just look at the stats. They weren't good. They were basically Jets level bad against the quarterback in schedule adjusted fantasy points per allowed to the quarterback position. So Hurts is number one. I also have Mahomes in that high total game at Arizona in there, and I think Kyler as well. Anybody else in that tier for you? I guess you would call this the A tier.
Yeah, I also have Russell Wilson up against Seattle in the revenge game. I'm a big revenge game narrative guy. Now, it might not work for Joe Flacco up against the Ravens, but I do really believe there's some fire under Russell Wilson, and he's going to let it fly up against Seattle. And did you mention Justin Herbert? I could be wrong.
I did not mention Justin Herbert, but I think he's in that tier for me as well. The Vegas Raiders defense, the pass rush was starting to figure it out, but they were just league average in that schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed stats. So Herbert's in that tier. What about Tom Brady against Dallas? This is really interesting to me because Dallas has a pretty strong defense, but they're takeaway based. So if Brady just gets a few chunk plays here and there, he could still really pay off, right?
Yeah, Tom Brady's kind of in that third, that B tier. If you're using the SAB, whatever, keep going on like that. Yeah. He'd be in the B tier for me. I like Tom Brady a decent amount in this matchup. I'm kind of worried about the health of all these receivers, right? Besides Mike Evans, like how healthy is Chris Godwin? Because they're pointing towards, oh, Godwin's going to play. Even if Godwin plays, would it surprise you if he was just a decoy out there and he really didn't see that much work? And then Russell Gage has been banged up as well, which kind of scares me. Now, obviously, Tom Brady's Tom Brady. He's going to be just fine. Going up against the Cowboys, he sliced and diced them last time we saw them play, but I just don't have Brady ranked as high.
So I kind of went back and forth about this one. I have Brady in the A tier, but he just barely squeaks in. There are a lot of reasons to say he shouldn't, but there are some stats that kind of indicate that the Cowboys may have overperformed a little bit last year. That's what I'm kind of banking on. In past DVOA, the Football Outsiders advanced analytics, they were 7th in the NFL. They were second best in the NFL in yards allowed per pass attempt, but they did give up some explosive plays as well. And we know Brady's capable of doing that, but the health of the receivers really matters. Alex, we got a question. We will answer that question for you at the very end. And that's one thing, guys. If you have some tougher start sit questions, like you waited on quarterback, we will definitely get to them. But of course, you're going to hear each player. And if one is in the higher tier, that's going to help you out. That is for sure who we would start. So, if you have two players in these top tiers, unless you're talking a super flex league, you might have spent a little bit too much on quarterbacks. But I do think that there's a chance that once we get into these mid tiers, like this B tier, there are some tougher start sit decisions as well. Yeah. So for me, the next tier is a little bit different. I got Russell Wilson. I feel confident about Joe Burrow in there. And this is where I have Aaron Rodgers, although I'm worried about the health of those wide receivers as well in Green Bay. I also have Dak Prescott, who's facing a tough Tampa Bay defense, but I just think the rushing ability, the high total game, 50 points in Dallas. I'll take that game environment and put him in that tier as well. And here's the one is more matchup based than confidence based. Trey Lance. I have Trey Lance in this tier as well, this B tier. How about you?
Yeah, I also have Trey Lance in that tier. I have Trey Lance ranked as my quarterback number 8 on the week. And I think the way you win fantasy is not being scared, right? You don't want to worry about, Jimmy Garoppolo could show up in the game. I saw a report from Peter King that he believes Jimmy Garoppolo will show up in week 7 and be the starter. Does anyone actually believe that? That would be insane. Trey Lance, I think, would have to play like absolute dog shit, literally be useless out there in order for that to happen. So I like Trey Lance a ton this week going up against Chicago. Over the last couple of years, Chicago has had a solid defense, but now that defense is deflated immensely. So I expect Trey Lance to be able to run all over this defense. And his arm does look pretty good. We'll see what it actually looks like during a real game. But in training camp, it has looked pretty well. Same thing in preseason. So I like Trey Lance here up against Chicago a ton. Even though it's in Chicago, I think Trey Lance does just fine.
I think the pass attempts are a concern here. I think games where Lance passes only 23 to 30 times, that's very much in the range of outcomes every single time the San Francisco 49ers step onto the field. And the fact that they have multiple good rushers in Mitchell and in Deebo Samuel as well. But I think the floor against a Bears defense that is at best league average, I think you're going to see some solid upside here. If he has just like 200 passing yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, and then just some rushes like 8 or 10, he's easily into that B tier. And if he has some touchdown upside or some efficiency, yeah, he's going to hit the A tier even. So the upside is definitely there against the Chicago Bears. I do think that's going to be like one of these slower, run heavy, and that means the clock moves, so less total plays. I don't think it's the best fantasy environment overall. That doesn't mean you're benching Samuel or Kittle or something like that. But if you've got a flex that's right with Brandon Ayuk, the game environment, it's only so-so. I will say that. When we get to the wide receivers in a couple days, I will talk more about that. Anyone else in this B tier you want to highlight?
No, honestly, I like all of these players. Now, again, we're so high up in the rankings that there's really no one to dislike, but I am a little bit concerned about Aaron Rodgers. So I actually have Aaron Rodgers in a tier below him in the C tier, or below where you have him ranked in the C tier. I think the Minnesota Vikings matchup isn't the worst on paper, but I do slightly worry about Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams, right? There is potential that this offense struggles week one. We saw last year up against the Saints. He struggles mightily in week one. Maybe he was high off a Percocet or something. Who knows? But Aaron Rodgers did struggle in that game. Yeah. Yeah. He was rolling off the perk. So I think this week he'll be just fine, but I do have him ranked one spot below. But when you're going from B to C, there's not a crazy jump in my projections. What about you? See it that way?
No, this is what I call the great flattening. Because when you look at this from a median projection standpoint, this is where all of the quarterbacks start to actually look the same in a number standpoint. Now, where they end up at the end of the day, Sunday, they all bounce all over the place. The variance is still pretty high. That's why you'll hear us talk about constantly on the Stokastic Fantasy Football, on the notorious FNTSY channel, on the Stokastic DFS channel, range of outcomes. That's definitely in his range of outcomes. Get used to that term because ultimately these players have floor and ceiling differences. The floor is really low for Aaron Rodgers. Ultimately, I think that the ceiling is still there with how he plays. If you put him in the C tier, that's fair. For me, that starts with Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford against the Bills, a tough defense. And I'd even put Jameis Winston and Kirk Cousins there. How about you?
Yeah, I like Jameis Winston and Kirk Cousins a ton. Last night in my super flex draft that I had with all my friends, we took 10 quarterbacks in the third round. So my quarterbacks are Tom Brady and famous Jameis. And I'm very excited about Jameis Winston's matchup up against Atlanta. But this game also reeks to me of a trap game from a betting perspective. I believe Atlanta's getting 5.5 points. This game seems like this is going to be significantly closer than the books have it. And I worry that I don't think Jameis is some choke artist, but I just think Atlanta might be sneaky good.
Whoa. Okay, so break this down for me because they've got a super low win total. Crazy high odds to be the top scoring in the NFL. And so from a fantasy perspective, where are you seeing the upside here? Is it just Mariota getting that second chance and being better than people think?
Yeah, it really is. It's just maybe Mariota is better than people think, and maybe the fact that Drake London and Kyle Pitts are just that good. Like, what if Drake London really is that good, and then Kyle Pitts takes that next step up? Maybe the fact that the defense isn't amazing, if they're able to keep up with New Orleans' high-scoring offense potentially, then I think they could keep this game close. Again, I'm not saying that the Atlanta Falcons are going to win the fucking Super Bowl or something. That's a little bit crazy, but I do think that they might be better than people give them credit for, is all I'm kind of going off of here.
No, I think that makes sense. And before we get further into here, I do want to tell you guys that we have football season finally here. You know that. And that means we can take advantage of one of the best deals of the year. Stokastic Plus Platinum is available. You can see it in the description below, but you can also use promo code TOUCHDOWN when you get to checkout for 10 days of Stokastic Plus Platinum for only $10, a $57 value for $10 with promo code TOUCHDOWN, all one word. This includes full access, everything we got on the site, premium content, tools, ownership, projections, top stacks, boom bust tool for NFL. It's like an overwhelming amount of stuff. And again, this is for new users of Stokastic Plus Platinum, but it is an awesome time to get in on the action over at stokastic.com, stokastic.com, or click the link in the video description below. I think this is a really interesting tier, Nick, this C tier. And just to answer the question, Burrow or Stafford, I think Stafford is firmly in this C tier, which I call tier 3B, right? It's not that far below the Wilson, Lance, Rodgers, Prescott tier, but I think Burrow is also in that 3A tier. Personally, 6.5 points, favorites at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that defense is okay, and I know the game total is fairly low, but I think you take Burrow in this situation. I agree. Could it be a shootout? If you really need a ceiling, like if you feel like you're a big underdog, I could understand Stafford in that situation. But if you're just going for the highest median projection there, Swilly, it's Burrow for me. How about you?
Yeah, I have Burrow ranked as my 10th quarterback, Stafford ranked number 11. So I have them ranked back to back. This Pittsburgh game does seem like it has the potential to be very boring. Like I'm saying, like maybe Joe Burrow doesn't go crazy. Maybe this isn't the high scoring Cincinnati Bengals we remember from the playoffs, and maybe they come out flat early on. I don't think they're going to lose, but I think this could be a lower scoring game. So I definitely feel a little bit more comfortable with Stafford, but Burrow just has so many weapons, and at any point he could throw 4 touchdowns. So I do have Burrow ranked one ahead.
One ahead. Yeah, it is really splitting hairs. Hey, listen, you do have a really good quarterback core there, but sometimes you got to go with where you're feeling about the matchup in this one rather than the game projection, because ultimately these are super, super close ones. In this 3B tier, I think Jameis Winston and Kirk Cousins need to be talked about as well. Jameis Winston, I think you talked about how that Atlanta game could actually go up and down, turn into a high scoring affair. I actually think that's the case with Green Bay and Minnesota as well. I think we're going to see Minnesota start to show their new offense, pass heavy, maybe a little bit more Sean McVay, Rams-like. That's what it's been highlighted as in the preseason. I think there's a very strong possibility the number of plays in this game is being underestimated by the public, and that means Kirk Cousins against a Green Bay defense is only league average in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position, actually in a solid place in this solid mid-tier, starter tier in a one-quarterback league.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Kirk Cousins this week. I think that we get to finally see that, ooh, what's it going to look like when they throw the ball more? Ooh, let's see what happens to Dalvin Cook that people are talking about. I'm pretty excited about Kirk Cousins this week, and I think this offense is going to be able to keep up with the Green Bay Packers. I also don't think the Green Bay Packers are going to necessarily even push them to potentially win the game. Like, I think the Vikings could definitely win this game. So I think it's going to be close, and I like Kirk Cousins. He's my quarterback, number 15 right now. And I know you have Dak significantly higher. I was flirting with putting Kirk Cousins over Dak. I think Dak could struggle mightily against Tampa.
Especially with Michael Gallup definitely not playing. They already said he will not practice. He will not play. Now, they said if it were the Super Bowl next week, he would play, which indicates to me that week 2, week 3, possibility here for Michael Gallup, but ultimately not going to have his services this week against a really tough Tampa Bay team. And I think Dak is going to have to be there as a rusher in a way that we haven't seen since his 2020 injury. They have said that they're going to use him more and more in that capacity. Let's see if that's for real. Now, at this point, I want to say that that's the line of demarcation. After Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, and definitely Matt Ryan. And we should also mention Derek Carr against the Chargers. That's fine too. That's where I want to have my one QB leagues end. I really don't want to be in a position to have to start someone in this D tier, this tier 4 for me. But that doesn't mean that we can't find a few diamonds in the rough here. There's always situations where we're going to find flex starters in week 1. It's less likely, but of course, we're going to have to get on that waiver wire eventually. Things happen, transactions, injuries. You know how it goes. But I think Trevor Lawrence is one of my favorites, even though the Eagles game might be a little bit more low scoring, run heavy. I think Ryan Tannehill against a Giants defense that still is undermanned. Man, I was reading an athletic article breaking down their 53-man roster cuts, and they've just got holes all over the place, man. I think it could also end up being a high scoring affair if we see the Brian Dable Bills-esque offense from the Giants. Maybe. And I think Tannehill's in a great position to succeed. But I got a bunch more here. Tagovailoa, Fields, Carson Wentz, maybe even Daniel Jones and Jared Goff are in this tier for me. This is another kind of flat tier, but I do want to mention that I think that Trevor Lawrence starts a redemption tour right off the bat here. I mentioned the Eagles. I think they're playing Washington. I messed that up, but I think that Washington game is going to be sneaky interesting, especially from a Jaguars perspective.
Yeah, one guy you didn't mention that's in this tier for you, Baker Mayfield, the revenge game. Again, I'm a big revenge game narrative kind of guy. I think Baker could just scorch earth, destroy the Browns. Like, I'm thinking like he could throw 3 touchdowns in this game. Now, again, I don't have him ranked that high. The other guy that I really like in this tier is Jared Goff. I think this game with the Eagles could be very fun. I think while everyone kind of hypes up the Detroit Lions, that's because their offense looks good, right? If you put any quarterback that was just all right there with DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the tight end, TJ Hawkinson, and then Jamison Williams when he comes back, DJ Chark, you're like, holy shit, this team looks amazing. But no, it's because Jared Goff is there. But Jared Goff isn't that bad. So I think Jared Goff could actually put up a pretty solid performance this week. Again, nothing to, if you're in like a 1 quarterback league, you're probably down bad if you have to play Jared Goff, but things could be worse.
So I kind of feel like they're getting the Hard Knocks boost. Very likable players. And, Jared Goff, say what you want about him, but he has led a really, really solid offense in the league. Now, you can say part of that was his coaching, part of it was the scheme, but he does eventually have the weaponry here. One thing that really burns Goff is if the Eagles come out and they're not as pass heavy as we want them to be. They run the ball a ton with Hurts and Sanders. They're doing little dump offs to get A.J. Brown some yak yards or things like that. And it's still kind of a, medium paced offense, lowering the total plays in this game for Jared Goff. But I think the weaponry is there. The Philadelphia Eagles in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, nothing special, just below league average last year. But I actually want to say that I'd rather start a player with rushing upside, Daniel Jones, Ryan Tannehill. I do feel like they give a little bit more ceiling, but the floor is a little bit different. Baker Mayfield, man, I hope it starts for him. You mentioned him already, but that would be so fun. Apparently, he didn't say that quote about messing anybody up, but...
No, he did.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Okay, good. I do want to say, I think that he's being totally underrated. If you still have a draft, I think, basically free in 1 QB leagues, a great super flex pickup. Definitely consider Baker Mayfield with some of the best weaponry he's ever had. And I mean Laviska Shenault. No. No. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey. That'll work.
Yeah, talk about Tommy Tremble as well.
Oh, never forget about Tommy Tremble. Great call. Guys, check the banner up at the top of the screen there if you're watching on YouTube. Drafters.com is just an awesome place to play, and they've got tons of overlay in their huge contest as we're heading into the season. If you've played best ball before, you know how much fun it is. You just draft your team, win huge prizes, and if you've already signed up on sites that, end in dog, maybe you need some more action, especially one where there's going to be overlay most likely. Check out Drafters, and we've got a great offer for you. Promo code Stokastic, STOKASTIC, gets you 1 free ticket to their $1 million Drafters contest when you add up to a $20 ticket for that contest yourself. If you add 2 tickets to that contest and use promo code Stokastic, we will give you the best ball draft kit and the fantasy draft kit, which is good through the season, absolutely free. A $70 value, absolutely free. Check it out, drafters.com today. All right. Anybody we should mention before we head out of the D tier and into the, okay, what's going on? What happened with your draft? Or you just punted quarterback in a super flex league situation?
Yeah, you did bring up Ryan Tannehill. Now, I know there's a lot of hype for Malik Willis in the best ball community, right? Everyone's talking up Malik Willis. But in my opinion, I think Ryan Tannehill's just fine. He's going to start. Going to probably play every game this year unless he gets hurt. And I really do think that Ryan Tannehill's competent enough to be good in fantasy. We've seen him be a top 12 quarterback in fantasy football before. He has rushing upside. Everything fell off a cliff last year when A.J. Brown was banged up and when Derrick Henry was banged up. Had they have not gotten injured, I really think Ryan Tannehill could have finished as a top 12 quarterback. Now, I don't think he's going to finish in top 12 points per game, but would it surprise you at all if he was quarterback 14 on the week or
Not
13
at all
against the Giants? Yeah,
Not
it shouldn't. And he's ranked much lower than that. So that's why I'm excited about Tannehill this week. And this matchup really is easy. Like you mentioned, the Giants defense is not very good. So I think Ryan Tannehill could easily have his way. And Ryan Tannehill needs to play really good in order to keep his job. So I expect him to play quite well.
So this is really interesting to me. The Giants were below league average in Fantasy Outsiders DVOA against the pass, 15th in yards allowed per pass attempt, but they were weirdly good in fantasy points. Maybe that was just sort of like a variance thing, but everything kind of points to this Giants defense being subpar. They had that unlucky, pretty rough break with their first rounder this year. Hopefully he does make it back soon, but ultimately they've got holes all over the place, as we mentioned. Tannehill with that sneaky rushing upside because of how much the defenses are focused on Derrick Henry. Yeah, that game, because of the rushing quarterbacks, could be really, really solid. So I really think that's a solid call. And if you got to punt with Daniel Jones, I don't think you're in the worst position. You ready to move on to this final tier, the F tier, the what the heck flex kind of play? I do think you ultimately could get one or two, solid performances out of this group. The favorite I kind of want to highlight is Mitchell Trubisky, because he's clearly won the starting job. Number one in the captain voting, apparently, or at least up there, because he is a captain, which usually means you're starting. Cincinnati Bengals were below average in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed. And if the game goes as Vegas expects, with them being touchdown underdogs, they're probably going to have their pass volume inflated because they're playing likely from behind. What if Trubisky's a little bit competent? What if Trubisky gets that rushing upside? We've seen ceiling games from him, so I think that one is sneaky good to start off week one if you're in a super flex or you just completely punted the quarterback position.
Yeah, I like Trubisky. I think Trubisky kind of has a bad rap in the NFL just because of the Matt Nagy experience that he had to endure. If you remember his first season, like Trubisky literally looked pretty good. And then after that, it kind of all fell down. And now we're at the point where now he's the quarterback number one in Pittsburgh. Obviously, this is far from an ideal matchup, but the reason why the Bengals made it so far in the playoffs last year to the Super Bowl is not because they have this elite defense. So with the offensive weapons that Trubisky has now, I'm under the assumption, and I assume you are too, that Deontay Johnson is going to play, right?
I do think he's going to be fine. I think he would have played in a regular season game in that same game, but they were like, what are we doing here? We're done.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think that Trubisky is in a pretty good situation with these receivers that he has, as well as Najee Harris. The offensive line is so-so. Last year, the offensive line was a turnstile. It's hard to be that bad again. So I think Trubisky is pretty interesting. And the F tier could also stand for, wow, that's a huge fucking neck for Davis Mills, because I kind of like Davis Mills as well this week.
Oh,
not as like an actual starter in like a regular 12-team league, but I think Davis Mills might be sneaky in this game. I'm kind of
okay.
I don't know. I'm a big Davis Mills guy.
All right, break this down for me. What is interesting about Davis Mills in particular? Because the Indy game, it's okay in terms of game total. Indy was actually okay. All right, I do see this. They were 20th out of 32 teams in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, so below average. And I guess you assume that they're playing from behind in the same sort of narrative I was talking about with Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers with Trubisky. Is that really it?
Yeah, and I'm expecting Dameon Pierce to score 3 receiving touchdowns. I'm just kidding. Obviously, you guys know I love Dameon Pierce, but I expect that this offense is going to be capable enough. Like, I really think Davis Mills he also gets a bad rap. Like, Davis Mills is actually pretty good, and if they are playing from behind, like, I really think that Matt Ryan and them, they're gonna put up a bunch of points. So Davis Mills is gonna have to sling the rock, which either means that Davis Mills is going to be awful because he throws like 3 interceptions, or we're going to get a Blake Bortles-esque game from 2015 or 2016, whatever that was, where he would just score 1,000,000 points in the fourth quarter, like Tim Tebow-esque.
I was like, where are we going? We went Bortles, we went Brady, 2 GOATs, from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Tim Tebow, though, you get that in the fourth quarter where he just plays good. That might be what Davis Mills does. So, again, I'm not saying that Davis Mills is like a top 10 quarterback on the week, but would it surprise me if he finished as like quarterback 16 and was a pretty decent QB2? I think so.
I could see QB 14 to 20 in the range of outcomes.
Yeah.
There is just no way, in my opinion, he's getting into the top 12 unless like this game goes totally awry. And I actually think there's some sneaky ceiling upside with a player like Trubisky. I also think that Marcus Mariota falls into that tier group for me, where sneaky rushing upside, sneaky ceiling game environment. Again, you're not starting him unless it's the 2-quarterback or super flex situation, but I do like him a little bit more than my final players here on this list, Jacoby Brissett and Geno Smith. And God help you if you're starting one of Joe Flacco or Zach Wilson in your 3.5 quarterback 9 super flex league or whatever.
Yeah, the elite one, Joe Flacco. But Geno Smith, look, I know I've made fun of Geno Smith before, but this guy literally might suck so much ass that Drew Lock might come in this game. Would that surprise you if at the end of the game, Drew Lock entered the game? I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think the rope is one game. That would be really, really, really short leash. But it's possible. It's possible. I feel like they kind of wanted to give Geno Smith this job. I feel like it's sort of a reward for how well he was as a backup. But ultimately, it comes down to play on the field. We've seen Jacoby Brissett be more efficient and more helpful from a fantasy perspective than Geno Smith. You could say that the ceiling is there for both Smith and Brissett, but man, I really hope you're not here. I hope that you're in that Mariota, Trubisky, or even Davis Mills tier. And guys, I'm just not starting any Jet. I'm not doing it. No Zach Wilson, no Joe Flacco against the Ravens. I mean, if you absolutely need a quarterback, don't take a 0, but do whatever you can. You might need to make a trade even before week 1 if you're in that position.
Yeah. Jacoby Pissett, as Captain Spock says. What a nickname that is. The guy, he's very bad.
Yeah, it's not an exciting play at all. I do think that Kevin Stefanski's offense is one that can create efficiency for the quarterback, and he does like to throw these short area passes where theoretically Amari Cooper could be successful, or David Njoku, or Donovan Peoples-Jones, things like that. But again, you're not looking at huge upside at all. That's really it for the quarterback position. This was a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Guys, we are going to have every single position, every single day. So tomorrow we're going to do running backs. Then we're going to do wide receivers, and we're going to do tight ends. So if you want to hang out with us and you have those start-sit questions, we'll obviously try our best during the show to answer it. And once we get to the positional tiers, like the running back video, you'll have a better idea of where these people stand. Make sure you follow Nick at Notorious, FNTSY. And Nick, why don't you let the people know about a special announcement? It's in the works right now. The timing is TBD, but it's really exciting what we've got going on behind the scenes, and I think you should let the people know.
Yeah, so I'll mention that. I want to also mention really quickly that if you have a lot of these questions about fantasy, make sure you leave them in the comments of all my videos. I respond to all the comments. And then on Thursday and Sunday, I will be live prior to kickoff for Thursday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, answering all the questions. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them then, because you're guaranteed most likely to get an answer, unless there's like 600 of us in there, which is possible.
Well, that would be a great thing, but then it'll be hard to answer everyone.
Yeah, it'd be hard to answer every question. But yeah, I try to answer as many questions as possible. And then we are switching the Best Ball channel, which used to be my channel, back to my channel. The time is to be determined, like you said. Could be any time now, but a lot of those videos that you're watching right now, the start sits, are going to be on there, and we're going to have a great time on there. And yes, there is Sunday morning as well. Did I not say Sunday morning? So Thursday morning, Sunday morning.
We got Thursday night, right? And then Sunday morning as well. And I believe what we're trying to work out here is a simulcast situation. So if you're here, you're subscribed to the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. First of all, you definitely want to go over there once we get things rolling. And it's also going to be available right here, him answering your questions. We also have more of the videos that you know and love that we were getting ready for draft season. We're going to be bringing that over. Our must start sit videos, our must add waiver wire videos. We've even got help with kickers and defenses. We've got so much planned for you guys. And yeah, definitely leave a comment on this video or any video you're watching about how we can improve, help you guys out from a fantasy perspective. We love this stuff. We're so happy to be back. And before we get out of here, just got to mention, take advantage of that touchdown offer, all one word, touchdown, for $10 access to 10 days of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Guys, the same tools that Alex Osimo Baker, Steve DeColt's Buzzard, and many more have used to win literally millions of dollars in DFS projections, not only helping you in your fantasy leagues, but taking down some money in the DFS world as well. Quarterbacks down, running backs tomorrow, wide receivers, tight end. Nick, you ready, man? This is so much fun.
Yes, I'm super fucking excited. There's only games, 2 days from now? Today's Tuesday.
2 days.
The time goes so quickly. 2 days away from football. Very excited. And Rams plus 2.5. That's all I've got to say.
Going to be a blast. Going to be a blast. I'm Matt Savoca. Follow me at Draftaholic. He's Nick Lepri at Notorious FNTSY. We'll see you guys soon.